The Dragonback series by Timothy Zahn. Book 5. Dragon and Judge. Chapter 14. The doctor, a Comfrin, Allison noted with interest, not a Brumga, was quick, efficient, and quiet. 15 minutes after arriving, Allison was on her way out again. A tall, wry Wistwak wearing green and purple and red cross-chest sash led the way, with Dumbarton and Mershpaw plodding along beside her. The room Neverland had assigned her was in the first basement level down, with an entrance off the main kitchen area. The slaves working in the kitchen seemed to not even notice them, but Allison caught enough sideways glances to know that everyone was indeed aware of the strangers passing through their midst. After the luxury of the shipboard stateroom, her new room was a severe letdown. It was small and cramped, equipped with a bed, a rough wooden dresser, a chair and small table, an intercom that doubled as a clock, a small overhead light, and a small sink. "No shower?" she asked, looking around.
The bathroom is at the end of the hall,
the Wistwak said.
It is shared by all the slaves on this floor.
Allison looked at Dumbarton. "Slaves?" she demanded. Dumbarton shrugged.
"I had a problem a while back," he said. "The Patricia cook ordered that all visitors stay down here where it's more secure."
Jack again. How many times, Allison wondered sourly, was she going to trip over him while she was here? "That means all the rest of you are down here too?" Dumbarton gave her an indulgent smile.
"We're not visitors, kiddo. We're allies."
"But you'll not...
"But you will not have to eat with the other slaves,"
the Wistwak offered helpfully.
"Your meal will be served here in 2 hours." "I'm sure it'll be just delicious,"
Dumbarton said as he and the Mershpaw left the room.
"Enjoy."
The Wistwak left as well, closing the door behind him. Tanim stirred against Allison's skin, but Allison laid a warning hand on her shoulder. Once again, it was time to check for microphones. To her mild surprise, there weren't any. Perhaps no one thought the slaves were worth the bother of monitoring. Unfortunately, they were probably right. A lifetime of slavery usually left the victims in grave-sized mental and emotional ruts, with all the spark and fire and hope brutally crushed out of them. The Chakuk family was especially good at that. 2 months ago, when Jack had gone to the slaves and offered them freedom, only 26 had taken him up on it. "Okay, it's safe," Allison told Tanim when she was finished. Sitting down on the bed, she held out her arm. The Kada missed the cue, coming out instead from the back of Allison's collar.
"I was so afraid in the hospital,"
she said, landing on the floor and turning her head back and forth as she looked around.
"I thought they would discover me for certain. I thought we would have to fight."
"Not this time," Allison soothed her. A shiver shook Tanim's body.
"I wish we were not here."
"Pretty much everyone in a slave colony feels that way," Allison said, opening her makeup kit. "Let's see what kind of reception we can get down here." She got out her mascara tube and unscrewed the end. A quick adjustment with her fingernail to shift its frequency, and it was ready.
"What are you doing?"
Tanim asked. "Usually the earphone works with the rest of the tube for listening to the inner workings of safes," Allison explained, inserting the end into her ear. "I've changed its frequency to pick up the bug I planted in the papers from Virgil Morgan's lockbox. Quiet now, let me listen." But it was quickly clear that there was nothing to listen to. She could hear faint sounds, but they were distant and muffled. "Haven't even opened the bag yet, I guess," Allison said, pulling the earpiece back out. "Probably busy debriefing Frost about the trip in."
"I wonder how much truth Frost will tell him."
"Not nearly as much truth as there actually is," Allison said, hiding a smile. Allison's grasp on English was remarkably good, and with that, she'd been able to help Tanim, so that in the short time, Tanim had also gotten quite a good grasp on English. But some of Tanim's phrases and sentence constructions were still rather entertaining. For starters, you can bet money that he won't say word one about me opening those safes.
It's so very strange.
Tanim murmured, her tail tip curving in an arc.
They are friends like you and Jack, yet they keep secrets from each other.
Allison felt a twinge of conscience. That's because Frost and Neverland aren't really friends, she said. They're working together, but only because neither can get what he wants alone. But I doubt either trusts the other any farther than he can throw him.
What do you mean?
Tanim asked, her tail curving into an even tighter arc.
They throw each other?
No, that's just a figure of speech, Allison said. A sort of word picture. The point is that they don't trust each other, not like Jack and Dracos do.
Or like you and Jack?
And that probably goes double for the Patreacher cook or whoever's calling the shots for the Brumgas, Allison said, passing over the Kadaz question. Probably why we're here, in fact. After Dracos ran roughshod over the Patry's people, I'm guessing he insisted the safes be put under his control to make sure Neverland and Frost didn't just throw him to the wolves. That's another word picture, she added.
I understand,
Tanim said, her glowing silver eyes steady on Allison's face.
You do not answer my question.
Allison sighed to herself. Tanim was definitely the persistent type. What question?
The question about trust,
Tanim said.
You do trust Jack, don't you?
Allison thought about it. With the question going only that direction, she could actually give an honest answer. Yes, I think I can trust him, she said. Well, mostly trust him anyway. We don't know each other well enough yet to really trust each other.
And he trusts you as well?
You'd have to ask him about that, Allison said evasively. Actually, she was pretty sure Jack didn't trust her. Not that she could blame him. My point is that a group like Neverland, Frost, and the Chakuk is inherently unstable, she went on. That means a fairly small push can make it fall apart.
Because they don't trust each other?
And because they're in it purely for the profit, Allison explained. The minute any of them sees an advantage to himself in betraying the others, he'll do it. Part of our job here is to play along and watch for a chance to give it that push. Tanim seemed to ponder that.
Is that why you agreed to open the vault and safe aboard the ship?
Partially, Allison said. Besides proving to Frost that I could do it. Tanim seemed to straighten up.
I cannot help very much with your work,
she said. Her voice was trembling a little, but there was a firmness of will beneath it.
But if the time for battle should come, I will be there for you. You may trust me just as you would trust Jack and Dracos.
Something stirred deep within Allison. It had been a long time since she'd had someone close at hand who she could genuinely trust. So very long a time. I know, she managed. Thank you. She took a deep breath. But first things first. Dinner, sleep, and then I need to prove to Neverland that I can open his safes.
Yes,
Tanim said, her voice thoughtful.
I wonder why the Kadah safes are so difficult.
No idea, Allison said soberly. I wish I'd asked Dracos about it when I'd had the chance. It never even occurred to me.
You will figure it out,
Tanim assured her.
I have faith in you.
Thanks, Allison said. In the meantime, I'm going to go see if this bathroom has a tub and a hot shower. Will you be okay here alone for a few minutes?
There is room to hide beneath the bed if necessary.
Tanim said.
Go and enjoy.
The bathroom had a tub, plenty of hot water, and, best of all, a little privacy. Allison enjoyed the bath as long as she dared, then dried and dressed. She returned to her room to find that in her absence her dinner had been delivered, and that the waiter was still there.
Are you the human Allison Kana?
He asked politely. He was a Wistwak, tall and spindly and rather young. I am, Allison said, glancing around. There was no sign of Tanim. She must have made it under the bed in time. Thank you for the dinner. She sat down at the table and picked up the fork. The tray was military style, molded metal with 5 compartments for food. All 5 were filled with the proper nutritional range of meat, vegetables, bread, fruit, and even what appeared to be a sort of pudding. The room itself might be insultingly simple, but at least Neverland wasn't going to make her eat slaves' food too. She looked up to find the Wistwak still standing there. Was there something else? She said. He hesitated.
My name is Shurtili,
He said.
May I ask a question?
I suppose, Allison said cautiously. Shuf T. Lee seemed to brace himself.
Are you a friend of Jack Morgan, who came to us as Jack McCoy?
Allison stared at him. Was this some kind of trap? What makes you think that? She countered.
Because they dislike and distrust you, as they did him.
Shutif Lee said, the words coming out in a rush now that he'd committed himself to this line of conversation.
Yet they treat you specially, as they did him. You have the same air of nobility about you that he had.
He looked furtively around the room and lowered his voice to a whisper.
As also did the dragon.
Out of the corner of her eye, Allison saw something gray twitch under the bed. I'd be careful about trying to see nobility in people's faces, she warned. It usually doesn't work.
Then,
He broke off, frowning.
What then are you saying?
Allison hesitated. Still, if it was a trap, she was already in it. I'm saying don't assume I'm a noble person, she said. But as it happens, I do know Jack Morgan. And the dragon. Shuf T. Lee's mouth curled open in a relieved smile.
I knew it!
He breathed. The question is, what do you know about them? Allison asked.
I was here when...
And you might as well sit down, Allison said, waving him toward the bed.
Thank you.
Shuf T. Lee said, a little uncertainly. Stepping to the bed, he folded his lanky body onto it.
Thank you.
You were telling me how you know Jack, Allison prompted.
I was here when Jack Morgan came and offered us freedom.
Shuf T. Lee said.
He and the Black Dragon defeated many of the Brungas and led nearly 30 slaves to freedom, including 6 from the household itself.
The Black... Allison caught herself just in time. Of course, the story would be about a black dragon. Kada in combat mode turned black, no matter what their usual color. But you weren't invited? Shuf T. Lee's eyes closed, waves of subtle color rippling across his skin, reflecting his deep emotional pain.
I was afraid,
He said softly.
And I did not believe.
Not really your fault, Allison said, feeling an obscure desire to soothe the other's ache. If I hadn't seen some of the things the dragon can do, I wouldn't have believed him either.
You seek to quiet my shame,
Shuf T. Lee said.
But the shame is far distant to the agony of having been left behind.
I understand, Allison said gently. I'm sorry.
Do not be sorry,
The Wishtwak said, the emotion clearing abruptly from his face.
for with you I now have a second chance, and this time I will not let it pass by.
Whoa, Allison said, holding out her hands, palm outward toward him. Slow down a minute. I'm sorry, but that's not why I'm here. Shufti Lee's face fell.
But we have waited for this chance, for Jack and the dragon,
He lowered his eyes.
and we have hoped so much.
I'm sorry, Allison said again. Under the edge of the bed, she could see Tanim shifting restlessly, and it didn't take a genius to tell she was starting to feel all noble and guilty. Shufti Lee took a deep breath and stood up.
But I keep you from your meal.
He said, heading for the door.
My apologies.
That's all right, Allison assured him, standing up as well. Did the humans say anything else of interest? Shufti Lee eyed her a moment, perhaps wondering if she was even worth talking to anymore.
The older one, Mr. Arthur, told the other that he had heard that a Judge Paladin had arrived at a place called Similine. He seemed concerned about it.
What did the other one say? Allison asked. Shufti Lee shrugged.
He seemed unconcerned,
He said.
perhaps even amused.
Allison nodded, which implied whatever was going on with Similine wasn't connected to their plot against the Kada and Shanteen. Something from Neverland's personal past, then? She hoped so. At this stage, anything that distracted Neverland worked to her advantage. On the other hand, Similine was where Jack and Dracos had disappeared. Having Neverland's attention dragged that direction might not be such a good thing after all. Thank you, she said. I'd appreciate it if you'd let me know anything else you hear from them. An ember of hope seemed to touch Shufti Lee's eyes.
I will do so, Allison Kaner. Friend of Jack Morgan and the dragon,
He said.
Farewell.
Go in peace and merriment, Allison said. The other frowned.
What?
I said go in peace and merriment, Allison said, suddenly feeling foolish. It's a traditional Wistwalk farewell. There was another flicker of emotional coloring, a softer one this time.
I would not know of such things,
He said. Turning again, he left the room. With a sigh, Allison sat down again. You hungry? She asked Tanin. One eye emerged from beneath the bed.
Not right now,
She said, and then disappeared again. Gone off for a private sulk, apparently. Shaking her head in mild disgust, Allison sliced off a corner of the meat with the edge of her fork. Sulking because Allison wasn't ready to jump on a white horse and charge through an army of Brumgas she couldn't stop toward a gate she couldn't open for a bunch of slaves who probably wouldn't follow her anyway. Fine, let her sulk. Sooner or later, like it or not, she'd have no choice but to admit there wasn't a thing the two of them could do for these people. Until then, Allison would just enjoy the silence, carefully dividing the food in each of the tray sections in half for when the Kada did decide she was hungry. Allison settled down to her meal.